can see me. I tend to turn it off while we're presenting just so that I'm not a distraction, but so glad that you are with us wherever you happen to be joining us. I know that we have people who have been following these webinars from all over the world. I went back and counted because Zoom does a pretty good job of identifying countries where at least the internet is coming from whoever's joining. And there's over 23 countries that Zoom has told me that have attended these webinars. And so I'm just thankful for that. I'm thankful that we can globally be learning things and helping young people wherever we happen to be use technology well, because the internet is agnostic in its impact on all of us, right? It doesn't discriminate. It impacts all of us at a very human level. And that means that we all, whether we're a parent, grandparent, whoever we are, we need to be ready to have conversations. And so today's topic is what we're calling 25% predators. I have the shark there, right? Top of the food chain. And you'll find out very shortly what we mean by that statistic. I think it'll make a lot of sense. So just some housekeeping items. This is me. This is what I do here. We started Protect Young Eyes about 5 years ago. We help families, schools, and churches create safer digital places. And of course, all of that has changed as a result of the pandemic. We're using these webinars as a new and creative way to reach as many families as possible. And we have another thing that's in the works that I'll tell you about in just a minute. And we do this through free content. Like these custom talks that we still are doing. Michelle, who is joining me from the team today, she is my master of details. You might see her in the Q&A and chat feature, which I'll talk about in just a minute. But we also have an app that's coming up here very soon. But that custom talks in the middle, I was referring to Michelle. She and I just today were talking about some custom talks that we're putting together, custom webinars for organizations. We just have so much content that we can put it together a lot of different ways depending on the needs of your families. So again, a little bit of housekeeping here. Many of you, I'm sure, are familiar with Zoom. There's a few ways which you can interact with us. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see the chat, which is just sort of a back and forth. If you just want to comment, say who you are, where you're from, any of that, that's fine. But there's also a Q&A function where you can actually drop in a question, and Michelle is going to be moderating those and answering those to the best of her ability. And I'll be addressing a few of them during our talk also. If it's of interest to you, at the end of this, within 24 hours, all of you will receive an email that links to where you can find a PDF of the presentation here. Also a link to YouTube where you can watch a recording. I'm recording this right now, a recording of this presentation. But also if you need a certificate of completion, maybe for some continuing education, a PDF like this will be there waiting for you also. And so here we are into June. We've been through the May topics there, the toxic trio, Snapchat, the skinny on porn, and TikTok. This month, jumping into predators, and then rein in YouTube, Netflix best practices, and then Instagram 101. And hundreds of you have already registered for those upcoming webinars. And if you haven't done that, I'd invite you to do that anytime. So we have a growing YouTube presence. If you want to watch previous webinars or other how-to videos, we're starting to put more and more of those in there too. So I just want to start off recognizing that there is a lot happening in the world right now. Everything feels tense. I keep using the word unhinged. Some of the things that are happening are very, very good and causing movement in some very good directions. But I just wanted to ask the general question, how are you? And I'm going to launch a poll that just simply asks that question. Are you thumbs up? Need a hug? Need a hug and sad could be somewhat the same thing. Maybe if you're not wanting to hug because of social distancing, you could check sad instead, but sad is maybe a different level of emotion or just unsure. I just feel like there's a lot of people experiencing a lot of different things right now. I know that to be abundantly true in my own family. And so go ahead and answer. I can't tell who's answering what. We've disconnected responses from your email addresses. So can't track you down if you say you need a hug or anything, but I'm going to close that down in 3, 2, 1, and that poll, share the results. So got some thumbs up, 44% saying good, we're doing all right, great. It's sunny here in Michigan today, so that helps us at least, and decent number need a hug, and a pretty decent number who just aren't sure. Maybe day to day would be a good way to characterize that one. And friends, I totally understand. So let's get into some things. If you've been in our webinars, you've seen this before, but it's always worth repeating. that whether you're a parent, grandparent, and uncle, we all have a responsibility here. And those of us who are observant, engaged, and informed often have kids who learn how to use technology well. It's not straight prescriptive, but I do believe that if we do these things, it tends to produce a fairly consistent result. And again, I want to put in front of you this digital trust framework that we believe in so strongly, right? Either side of this framework either erodes trust or it does nothing to build trust. Now, one thing I want to clarify, it could be very easy to interpret that on the left side of this continuum, if you are protective and you delay smartphones or you delay social media, that I'm trying to say that you are eroding digital trust. And that is not true at all. In our family, we delayed social media and we delayed acquisition of a smartphone. That does not make you a helicopter parent or controlling or fear. I think there's a different attitude. You can be a parent who is permissive with technology and yet use fear and spying as a way to keep track of your kid. If you've decided that you don't want to give your child technology for 8th, 9th, whatever grade you want, that is great. That is responsible. You know your kids, you know them better than I do. I still think those 5 things in the middle in that family still make a lot of sense, that they're watching how you use technology, that they're using technology with you, even if they don't have their own device, right? You're curious about the videos that they're watching on YouTube. Why do they love this or that, right? You're having conversations and you're having great discussions about what types of controls the whole family should be using and not just the kids. So again, I just wanted to call that out because there was some confusion on what I meant there. So just as an example, right, I'm trying to live this out. I made a whole series of videos last night with my sons, Blake and Cole, for Coveted Eyes, another organization that I work for. And in this conversation here, I was talking about how Cole and I have had very open discussions. He's 10, open discussions about pornography. And here he is right here next to me. And I'm asking him some questions and we were talking about what that porn talk has been in our own house. And so just trying to model that to show that it is possible. That's what I mean by conversations there. So today, let's jump into 25% predators. Again, if you have any questions or comments, drop those into the Q&A or into the comments up above, and Michelle will do her best to take care of you on those. All right, so what do we mean by that? Protect Young Eyes, at least last year when we were speaking at schools, we surveyed students to ask them questions. And just as an example, and these are questions specific to their digital behavior, this is an example of results from one rural public school that we visited. And you can see across the bottom, horizontally, the different grades, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And this was the percentage of them who said yes to a creeper has tried to talk to me. In other words, somebody who I don't know while using technology. And I would characterize this as an average rural public school here in Michigan. And you can see these percentages, right, ranging from 20 to 25 to over 30 to 44% when it came to 8th grade. And as we've looked at the data, and we've done this for multiple schools, it comes out to around 25%, 25 to 30% of kids in that 3rd to 8th grade range answer yes to the question, has a creeper, someone who I don't know, tried to communicate with me through an internet-ready device? Now, that means it's not everybody, but I believe it's a large enough percentage that it's worth us having open and honest conversations with our kids about these things, right? Same thing is true in driving. A small percentage of teenagers actually get in car accidents, but we still prepare them. The percentage is small. Why? Because we prepare them. And we have conversations with 100% of them about driving well, or at least I hope we do, to keep that percentage low. And so this is too high for us to ignore the topic altogether. The internet obeys certain laws. As we've looked at how the internet has impacted humans over the last 30 or so years, there are certain laws that have become very clear. And a law that's pertinent to this talk is that wherever the kids are is also where the predators are. Always, always. And so as a result, we need to be cognizant of what certain apps have in terms of their features in order to enable those predators to find our kids. And so on the screen right now, I have 3 app icons. These are all apps that are very popular with young people, but are also very popular with predators. And so that leads us, I want you to look at them, study them, okay? That leads us into our second poll question. I haven't said the names of the apps yet, but of those 3 apps, I want to ask you to tell me how many of them do you know? You could tell me the name of the app and something about this app. So I'm going to go ahead and drop poll number 2 onto the screen now. I'm going to launch it. How many of these apps, and I think you can move the poll if you need to see them again, how many of those apps that you saw on the screen do you know? 1, 2, or 3? And that's the name of it and maybe one sentence, just one thing about this app. I'll shut that down in 3, 2, 1. I'll go ahead and end this poll, share the results. So 13% said 1. I could have had 0 up there. I didn't because I didn't want anybody to feel any amount of shame, all right? And so 2 was 48 of you, 71%, great, and 3 was there at 16%. Awesome, all-star there. So I'm gonna stop sharing and let's continue on. I'm not gonna leave you hanging, right? So all the way on the left, you have Roblox. That might've been the one that caused you the most trouble. Roblox is the most popular gaming platform for young people. It's not Minecraft, it's not Fortnite. When it comes to kind of that mid to upper elementary school, maybe early junior high, Roblox is #1. It has an unmoderated chat feature, which if not turned off, can create a grooming spot. What I mean by grooming is adults asking and communicating with kids to groom them or lead them toward a desired outcome, like sending a nude photo or sending credit card information and extorting them or whatever it might be. The one in the middle is TikTok, right? If you were a part of last week's webinar, I hope you recognize that app, and TikTok, let me be very straight, has a predator problem. Why? Because many of the TikTok famous individuals on there are young girls. And that is always a recipe, right? Social media just naturally tends to attract a larger population of young girls, meaning predators spend more time in those places. And that leads then to the third, the one on the right there, which is Instagram. Maybe that's the one that was most readily recognizable because it's been around the longest and is comparatively used more than any of these. So here's another statement to support that law. All apps with a chat feature will always have predatory activity. Roblox, the Fitbit app, the Bible app, all of them. I've had stories related to each of these apps shared with me about predatory activity, where a young person, a young athlete, in the case of the Fitbit app, who was a runner, who was a part of a running community, was being groomed, and father, very wise father, figured this out by being observant, noticing some changes in his daughter, asked her some questions lovingly and caringly, and discovered that someone had contacted her and made her feel very uncomfortable through the Fitbit app. Same thing in the Bible app with devotionals for young girls that can lead to predators finding them. And so it just goes to show anything that connects humans with other humans always has predatory activity. Instagram is the leading social media platform for child grooming. The leading one. This is a CNN article released last March. Right as we at Protect Young Eyes were amping up for the Senate hearing that we participated in back in July. And so we then jumped in March and did our own testing. And friends, I'm not going to show you all of the results because they are crushing. They are horrific. Some of the things that we experienced with our test accounts, we created test accounts as young people, clearly underaged, with profile photos of young boys and girls who were clearly underaged, and then went out there with a public account granted and interacted with a few hashtags, a few photos, we liked a few things, and we were confronted then with comments of the nature that you see here on the screen. And friends, this is a redacted and also clean version of some of the comments that we were witnessing in these places where predators were actually using the comments of Instagram in order to communicate and network with each other and to share their illegal media with each other. It's almost hard to believe. So our own test accounts proved that what CNN was reporting was the same that we were experiencing. And so does this mean that every young person who uses Instagram is automatically going to have a horrific experience? The answer is no. Does this mean that every young person who uses Instagram should have an adult in their life that is talking to them about the possibility of horrific experiences? Yes. And then encouraging them in the good and positive ways. All right. That's what I hope we take away from statistics like that. And so when we speak to young people, particularly in elementary school, we talk about tricky people. If you're like me growing up in the 80s, you probably got the stranger danger talk, right? Chris, if you're going to the park and you see somebody in front of a van with a puppy and candy, don't talk to them, like something like that, right? That meant we could identify strangers by what they looked like. That doesn't work in the digital age. Everybody's avatar, photo, profile kind of looks the same, right? And so we need to teach our young people how to identify strangers by what they talk like. Tricky people talk a certain way. And so my question to you is this: does your son or daughter know how to walk away from a nice predator? See, in today's day and age, it's not cool to be mean. And I'm not saying that we should make it cool to be mean, but I think we need to give our kids permission to walk away from a situation where that little radar inside of them, that little gut feeling is saying something doesn't feel right. Give them permission to listen to that, and then give them permission to walk away, telling them walking away isn't mean, it's smart. I had a father contact me about 1.5 years ago who explained to me something that was happening to his son on Snapchat. On Snapchat, his son was being groomed by a sexual predator, and they discovered this after it had been going on for about 6 months. And this was a middle school boy, a great kid, smart, all the things that you would go, not my kid, and yet it happened. And dad asked his son, why did you continue to talk to him? When you knew it just didn't feel right, why did you continue to talk to him? And his son's words haunted him, and dad shared these with me. And he said, Dad, he was really nice and I didn't want to be mean. And it was in that moment that dad realized I had never given my son permission in a hard situation to walk away. And so we want all parents to do that. And so here's a few statements that I think can really help us on this topic of predators, now that we've sort of set the stage for what is possible. And friends, there are so many things that we could talk about when it comes to online predation. In fact, in the email that you'll get tomorrow, I think what I'll do is I'm going to include links to some articles that are some of the, and I'll caveat them because I don't believe that everybody is probably equipped to read them. But last year in the fall, the New York Times did a 1-week expose on CSAM, child sexual abuse material. And some of the content that they discovered was being traded openly, not on the dark web, but on the known Google searchable web, was so hard to read. And it actually led to some legislative action, a lot of things, because it was so well done. But friends, we have to know that it's out there. And so some solutions that I think can help us, again, here flying at the 50,000 foot level, is number 1, assume it will happen. Number 2, give them tools. And number 3, be observant. In other words, right now, I want every single one of us to just assume that all of the young people that you know and love and care for will at some point be approached by somebody, a very nice somebody who they don't know, that is going to try to engage with them in communication on the internet. Let's just make that assumption right now. In fact, it goes in line with something that I tell all caring adults, is I want all of us to make a list of all of the horrible things that we hope never, ever happen to our young people on an internet-ready device. Make that list, and then find a way to talk to your young people about every single one of them in an age-appropriate way. That's what I mean by assume it will happen. Don't believe the lie for a minute. Not my good kid. Not my great kid who goes to church. Not my kid who's super nice. Not my super smart kid who gets straight A's, because that kid who was groomed on Snapchat was a straight A student, an 8th grader, okay? Assume it will happen. Meet your kids where they're at. And then that leads into giving them tools. And that, like I said before, give your nice kids permission to walk away from a nice predator. Because one of the horrible ironies of this situation is that some of the nicest people on the internet are sometimes some of the most horrible people on the internet. Now, I want to stop for just a minute, because what I'm saying could be maybe misconstrued to be on this path of fear and, oh my gosh, we need to just avoid and bubble wrap when it comes to technology. No, I want strong, wise kids who use technology, right? And so these are things that should scare us enough to take action and not scare us into this sort of fear-based response of saying, well, the entire internet is evil, I'm just going to keep my kid away from all of it. No, even if you decided to delay certain exposures or delay certain devices, which is fine, chances are they're going to have somebody else in their life who has an internet ready device, who had a sleepover or hanging out over the summertime. Now that we're heading into hanging out more with other people here in the summertime, again, we have to give them tools, even if it's not happening in our house, if we don't have access to a smartphone in our house or access to Instagram or Snapchat or whatever in our house. Make the assumption right now that someone else does have access to those things. And so talk to them openly and give them permission if they're ever in a spot where it feels uncomfortable or weird. What do I do, right? Give them permission to walk away. And a really simple couple of statements that we tell my own kids, and the Protect Young Eyes presentation team, we've told tens of thousands of kids over the years, is really simple. As soon as someone who you don't know tries to communicate with you through a game, through chat, through Roblox, through something, do two simple things. You put it down and you tell someone. Super simple. Give them that tool, going back to those three things. Assume it will happen. Give them tools. These two words can be a lifesaver. And the great thing about these two words, if you were present for our second presentation about pornography, actually our third presentation about pornography, was these two statements work whether it's porn or predators, right? If you teach your kid to recognize pornography, teach them to put it down and to tell someone and give them a list of someone's. If they run into somebody they don't know online, same thing, put it down and tell someone. We've tried to make it as simple and as memorable as possible. In fact, if I could go ahead and start my video for just a minute and put me back on the screen. When we talk to young people, just to even make it more memorable, we have hand motions that go along with it, right? We tell them to put it down and to tell someone. And we practice this in large auditoriums of kids, which is a ton of fun, to put it down and tell someone. We have them tell someone next to them. And so whatever we can do to make these sort of conversations sticky and memorable with our kids, particularly around a topic as important as this one, I just think those are great tools for our kids to put it down and to tell someone. Now, we've written a blog post all about tricky people and stranger danger in the digital age. This will be included as a link in what you get after the presentation, right? This is a blog post that explains what we mean in more detail about tricky people. It gives examples of questions that tricky people can sometimes ask. If these are questions, you could read that part of the blog post with your middle school son or daughter or upper elementary son or daughter and say, hey, if anybody ever says this and this or this or this, you have permission to put it down and to tell someone. That's exactly what I hope that you will tell them. So again, I hope this is really helpful for you. You'll have a chance to read that. That's all free. So let's assume it will happen, give them tools, and then be observant. Going back to the example I gave before with the father whose daughter was a runner, right? She was a middle school cross-country runner, and she was using the Fitbit through her Versa, which I have right here, right? Her Versa. And in the app, right, the Fitbit app that went along with it on her iPhone, there's an opportunity, there's a community feature in the Fitbit app. And in fact, if you go to Google and you search Fitbit app predator, I believe that our Facebook post is one of the first things that pops up if you wanted to read the full story. But at a high level, daughter started acting differently and dad noticed and was just curious, said, hey, honey, is something going on? Kind of as he retold it to me. And just through a series of conversations and comments, asked if he could look at her phone and dug in, and lo and behold, found this interaction that was happening inside of the Fitbit app that she did nothing wrong. See, this is one of the just horrible things about this sort of predatory activity. One of the many is that it's so easy for the kids to start to believe that they did something wrong. And therefore they clam up because they start to believe the lie that this is a horrible thing. I've done something wrong. Shame tells them not to tell anybody. And so be observant, give them every permission every single time to talk to you about everything that they're experiencing on the internet, that there's nothing they could ever say to you about something that's happened to them online that would ever change your love for them, how you feel about them. Nothing. Keep that shame impact as low as possible so that they feel open and comfortable talking to you about these things. So assume it will happen, give them tools, and be observant. So I'm going to drop poll question number 3 in for us now. Do you feel like you have done enough? I'm going to go ahead and put that up on the screen based on what you've heard today. Do you feel like you've done enough to prepare your children for online predator risk? This is not a question that I'm wanting to make you feel guilty about. That is not it. I want this to be information that equals action. Not information that equals fear, not information that equals guilt, not information that equals paralysis because, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. Hopefully you have some tangible things you can do. I'm gonna go ahead and end that poll and share the results. Friends, I'm encouraged by this. Why? Because you're honest and now you know what to do. You have 24 hours, okay? Should your life situation allow for it, 24 hours. That 91% of you now have a few ways that you can get this right. And if for any reason you don't know how to get it right, even based on the talk we've had here, please reach out to us, info@protectyoungeyes.com, and we'll do our best. Again, the digital trust framework in the middle there, even with predators and porn and Snapchat and Instagram, right? Show them how. Speak openly and honestly about everything at an age-appropriate level. And I think by doing that, you will create digital trust. We're working hard for families, friends. These webinars are just one way. In the middle there, you'll see the Senate hearing. Just yesterday, I was on a webinar where we're continuing to push some new legislation that came from that July 2019 hearing that is in response to some of that child sexual abuse material, where we believe that big tech has put too much of the responsibility on parents to get this right. They need to own more of this problem. We need to share it, but they need to own more of it. And I can't tell you how passionately I will continue to fight for that, because I see well-intentioned parents and grandparents who are working so hard to get this right, still struggling. Gets me emotional talking about it. That is not fair. That is not the way it should be. So we will continue to fight so that we can encourage the legislation that's needed in order to help the kids that we love so much be protected. We want them to use technology, but gosh, we need to be doing more to make it safer for them. So we will continue to fight in that way. Please stay in touch with us at Protect Young Eyes. You can contact us through Facebook, through Instagram, our YouTube channel. If you want to get connected to our newsletter, which I know a lot of you are already a part of, you can just text the word protect to the number 66866. If you are international, you can simply go to the website, because that probably won't work with your cell carrier. You can just go to the website, and there you can drop your email address in. And I just really want to tell you how excited I am about the progress we're making on our app that's going to be released in July. Again, in the message that you'll get tomorrow as a recap of the webinar, there's a link in there if you want to be notified when we release this. We really think that we're onto something, a brand new way for parents and kids to be learning about technology together, so that we have a shared understanding as to what's going on, and so that we're right in the middle of that digital trust framework. We think we found a way in an app that we're really, really excited to roll out in July. And so that's what I have for you today, friends. We can check off another one here. I'm gonna just take a quick glance. We've got a lot going on in the chat. This is awesome. I am going to spend a few minutes here with Michelle. I want to respect everybody's time. We want these to be a 30-minute block. And so we're right here at 1 o'clock. I'm going to spend a few minutes with Michelle in the chat to see if there's any questions that I can help her answer. Again, if you have anything else that we haven't answered here that you need help with, you can respond to that email. Those come straight to me, and Michelle and I handle those. I'm Chris from Protect Young Eyes. Thank you for being with us. If someone else you know wants to watch this, we're going to do the same exact talk tonight, 8:30 Eastern time. Please invite them to come. Have a great rest of your day.